Grace to you and peace from the God who created us in love, from the Christ who walks with us in every season of life, and from the Spirit whose presence fills us with hope and courage. Friends, we're here today for something that we never wanted to be here for, to celebrate the life of Lesley Gail Fairley. Now, when I say we didn't want to be here for, you know what I mean. I don't mean that we wouldn't want to celebrate her life. Lesley would be shocked by how many people are here. Lesley was one of the most humble people I know, and so all of your presence here, I think, is filling her with a little bit of embarrassment right now. You'll probably notice as you look around, people are wearing bright colors. This is because we really wanted today to be a celebration of her life. Yes, we're sad. Yes, we're grieving. But we also want to really celebrate and give thanks to God for her wonderful life. We come together as family and friends. There are folks here from all different parts of Lesley's life. From the wider church, there are people here from First Haney Scouting, from Como Lake, from all kinds of places in Lesley's life and history. And her friends here from Golden Ears are here as well. So thank you for all for being here. It really, really means a lot. We come together to offer our love and our support to those who held her closest, to her family, and to remember that even now, Lesley's light will continue to shine in the stories that we share. the love that she gave, and the faith that sustained her. My name's Leanne. I'm minister here at Golden Ears United Church, and I haven't gotten used to saying that alone since December. I used to say, along with my colleague Lesley, who was our Minister of Children and Families. And every time on a Sunday when I go to introduce myself, it's like, oh, I am aware of her absence. I've been here for the past 13 years, which is just a fraction of the time Lesley has been here. She has been a member here since 1995, 30 years, and an active member of the congregation. Lesley and myself have been co-workers in ministry for 10 years. She was our children and youth and families minister. And in more recent years, Lesley also became our part-time office administrator. I miss her dearly as a friend, as a colleague, and as my right arm. No matter where our lives intersected with Lesley's, we're united today by the love that we share and the light that her life brought into the world. And so as we begin, I'd like to ask Hannah and Michaela if they would like to come and light the Christ candle. The Christ candle stands as a reminder of the brightness that Lesley's living brought to each person who knew her, a light of kindness, of strength, and joy that will not fade. The candle also reminds us that her light has not gone out. It continues to burn brightly, not only in our hearts, but with God, the source of all light and life and love. Let's place ourselves in God's care, trusting in the promise of our faith that in life, in death, and in life beyond death, God is with us, that we are not alone, that death is not the end, and that Lesley has already been welcomed home into the loving embrace of God. In this hope, let's celebrate Lesley's life together, and let us pray. Holy and compassionate God, in whose love the world took shape, in whose love we were born, in whose love our lives are lived and we die. Give us peace in our hearts now. Help us to remember that we are never separated from your love, which surrounds our sorrow. Make us aware of your presence, and let us be strengthened together as we remember and give you thanks for the life of Lesley Fairley through Jesus Christ. Amen. So Lesley was a very enthusiastic singer. I'll leave it at that. One of the things that she always did for us was that she was our, she sang with her whole body, helping the congregation to sing with their whole bodies too. So all of the music in today's service are hymns that she had picked herself. And so I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing enthusiastically a song of praise to the Maker.
It's a song of praise to the Maker. The thrush sings high in the tree. It's a song of praise to the Maker. The gray whale sings in the sea. And by the Spirit, you and I can join our voice to the holy cry and sing, sing, sing to the Maker too. It's a call of life to the giver when waves and waterfalls roar. It's a call of life to the giver when high tides break on the shore. And by the Spirit, you and I can join our voice to the holy cry and sing, sing, sing to the Maker too. It's a hymn of love to the lover, the bumblebees hum along. It's a hymn of love to the lover, the summer breeze joins the song. And by the Spirit, you and I can join our voice to the holy cry and sing, sing, sing to the Maker too. It's the chorus of all creation. It's sung by all living things. It's the chorus of all creation, a song the universe sings. And by the Spirit, you and I can join our voice to the holy cry and sing, sing, sing to the Maker too.
Thank you. That was beautiful. That is exactly what she would have wanted. I forgot when I was doing a welcome to say welcome to those of you who are worshiping with us and who are with us on the live stream. We know that there are people who couldn't be here physically today because of distance or illness, and we're so glad that we're able to be with you and know that you're singing along. Even though we can't hear it, we feel it. So we come now to the part of the service when we get to share in the memories and the stories of Lesley. There are a few people who are prepared to speak. I'd like to invite Lesley's brother Grant to come on up first.
Hi, as Leanne said, I am Lesley's brother Grant. Sorry, but my sister was a very kind-hearted, giving person. She was always there to help anybody who ever needed it. Anytime that she could help, she would be there. She would do whatever people wanted. It didn't matter to her. She would give you the shirt off her back, so to speak, if she could. This comes as a shock to me, as probably all of you as well. And I am literally speechless for words right now. I am just so lost. But I can tell you she will definitely be missed. And I'm 90% positive right now, well, 99% positive, she's with Mom and Dad as well. But on that note, I have a bit of a story I'd like to share real quick. Yesterday I was here meeting with Leanne, and me and my daughter were here waiting, and my daughter's like, Dad, I want to go for ice cream. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we decided we're going to go to Dairy Queen because that's where she wanted to go. So I set my GPS to find the local Dairy Queen because I'd moved to Ontario probably about 30 years ago. So I'm not too familiar with Vancouver anymore, or Coquitlam or Port Moody, or anywhere for that matter. So I set my GPS, and it took me out the front door, turn left to the first set of lights, turn right at those lights, and head down. And instead of taking me down the road that it should have taken me, which would have been Lougheed Highway, to go over down there to 225th, where the Dairy Queen is. It decided to take me right down the Haney bypass to the bottom of the hill. And I'm like, the heck are you doing? I'm like, why are we down this? What's going on? All of a sudden, my GPS, and I have a witness, my daughter, who saw the whole thing, it just suddenly flashed, and the directions got changed. It took me down to the bottom of the hill at 225, up 225 to the first right at 119. And I'm like, wait a second, I know exactly where this is. It ended up driving me right up to my parents' old house. And I was in shock when I got there, and the GPS actually said to stop at 212, which is where they lived. And I was looking at my daughter, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, how did this even happen? And I've always been a person of belief in spirits and so on, and believe that things happen for a reason. And I believe I was guided up there yesterday for a purpose, because there was a neighbor who was there who came out. And I asked him, I says, oh, do you remember, Bob and June Fairley who used to live here? He's like, oh, absolutely. And I told him what happened. He's like, oh, well, I guess you're brought up here for a reason, eh? And I kind of looked, and I'm like, he goes, I thought I heard somebody say the other day, oh, stop it, Bob, which was something my mom said all the time. She's just, well, she loved my dad, believe me of that, but she always had something to say to him. But at the same time, he looked and he said to me, he goes, I swear, I thought I heard a word yesterday. And I was like, well, what? That, at that point, kind of made me believe that I was taking that direction and misguided on that GPS. Originally, I thought it was just to waste my gas, but I guess I was wrong. That it brought me up there for a reason. And I think the three of them were probably sitting on that front porch, because my sister lived in that house for a while after Mom had passed away and Dad had moved on and got married to Darlene. And Dad ended up moving in with Darlene, and then Lesley took over that house. So to me, I think that all three of them had spiritual believings and belongings in that home. And I believe I was taken up there for that reason, to say, hey, it's okay. And it's time to say goodbye. And just let her be up there and let her celebrate with Mom and Dad now. And I've just been one to always believe in, like I said, believe in spiritual things and things like that. And it just really, really hit me hard yesterday when I was taken there. And then the gentleman who was next door goes, oh, yeah, by the way, Dairy Queen's just up the end of the street. And I was like, yeah, I kind of figured that. I knew, but some way it took me the wrong direction. And I think there was a reason for that wrong direction. That was my way, I guess, for them to say, hey, we're at peace and it's okay. But on that note, I'm going to pass things back to Leanne. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. And I know everybody loved Lesley in their own special way. But once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Grant. I believe Derek, Lesley's cousin, has some words to share.
Thank you all for coming today. My wife told me to bite my tongue so I wouldn't cry. So I'm gonna, if I bite it a few times, if I say ouch, it's, I'm gonna try my best to, as I know Lesley would want, for me to focus on the positives and our great life together as a family. The Swales, the Fairleys, the fibrils. We've got so much close family to be blessed for. Lesley was a very special person to our family, part of the fabric of the family, the energy of our family, and she's irreplaceable. She was very proud to be a Fairley. In fact, she was probably an encyclopedia of Fairley family history. You know, there was a lot of things that if you needed to know something about family going backwards, she was the person you could turn to, and that's something that's very special. We were blessed, myself, my sister, my first cousins, David, Lindsay, Grant, and Lesley, to live in the Tri-Cities within minutes of each other, and growing up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was awesome. From Forest Drive to Fenwick to Charland, we moved around through the year for birthdays and anniversaries and even vacation together. And your first cousins are often your first best friends, your first friends, and it forms a lifelong bond of friendship and love, and we have that, and Lesley was a big part of that. In looking back at some of the family photo albums, Lesley was the first one to come into the family, and she was a beautiful, beautiful little girl. And I look back just over the last few weeks and looked at some pictures, and I was the second to come along. So, until Grant followed about a month and a half later, there's some great memories captured. And then a photo that's always stood out for me was at my second birthday. And Lesley by then had her legs in casts. And my Uncle Bob, she wanted to say goodbye. So he leaned her forward. And there's just the picture of, kind of both of us together. And that one kind of stood out. Lesley lived a very selfless life, as Grant has alluded to, and I know she wouldn't want me she would just simply want us to reflect on such a great life we had growing up together as a family. She dedicated herself to her family. She loved her parents so much, and Grant and her church and her faith, and we grew up going to Sunday school together at Coma Lake, and it's pretty awesome that she's kind of come full circle on that, and it was leading her knowledge and faith and strength in the church to the younger generation, she's been there for our family as a pillar of strength on so many occasions. We've celebrated some very special lives in this venue. Her mother, my father, almost 6 years ago, and most recently her father. And one of my memories when I think back to our youth was we grew up in Port Moody, and in grade 8 I went down to Coquitlam, and Millard School had just opened up, and Lesley had moved down there on the first year. And I know for Grant and I, going from grade 7 to grade 8 was a big deal, especially back in the early 80s. I mean, they all looked like men and women, these teenagers. And it was intimidating, but there was a friendly face there, and waiting for Grant and I to show us the ropes and show us around, and that was Lesley. And it made that first few months, along with a couple of lunches or a few lunches up on Charland, in between classes, an easier transition. And so that certainly stood out for me. And then personally, as I alluded to earlier, almost 6 years ago, my father passed away. And, as with all my family, and all families, we rally together, we rally around each other. And we had got the call one morning that, we needed to go say our goodbyes. And so Lesley came over along with some other close family members, and she was there for us. She, in suppressing her own grief, she found the strength, to be at our side, to say goodbye, and, read him his last prayer rites. And then 2 weeks after that, she stood right here. And again, she was a lot stronger than I am today. She was there for our family. We've always been about family, and for her to exhibit that kind of strength and compassion and love while still grieving herself was something we'll, always be grateful for. Last spring, Lesley, along with her mother-in-law, her stepmother, Darlene, Lesley had a couple of bucket list cities that she always wanted to visit, Budapest and Prague. And so I look back now and I look at her recent health challenges that, again, being so selfless, she seemed to just power through and continue to put others ahead of herself. But the three of us planned that trip together, and she was so excited. And I remember seeing her first Facebook page when she was in Budapest, and good morning Budapest. It was a beautiful morning in this world-class city, and I know she was so happy, and I'm just really glad when she got back, and we had a good chat with Darlene and Lesley and myself, and that she was able to create those memories, and as I said again, by the grace of God, she did it without any ill health or challenges through that, so we thank the strength above for that and for her stability to have been able to create that memory with Darlene. We're going to miss her very, very much. You lose people in each generation, and it's just very hard. As we started the service, as Leanne said, I don't know how we're here. But, we love you, Lesley, and we miss you, and you'll always be in our hearts.
Thank you, Derek. I'd like to invite Signe to come up. She has a poem for us.
Here at Golden Years, we have Truth and Reconciliation Readers Club, and Lesley was very involved in that. So today I greet you with Atanosh, which is good morning. Fortunately now, little one, as she was known to Pam and I wanted anybody to find my missing Lego pieces at the house, because she was forever sitting on them or stepping on them. So now, I don't know how many pieces she's sitting on or stepping on up there, but she could send them back down. I'd appreciate it. So as most of you know, many of you know, Lesley and nature were very much akin. She loved nature. She also loved the author Maya Angelou as I do. So this is the poem. It's called When Great Trees Fall. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses. Even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil in silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. When great souls die, our reality bound to them takes leave of us. Our souls depend upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to an unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing, electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same. Whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. Heit Sepka.
And now I call on Pam. Do you need a music stand? No, okay, that's fine. Okay.
Okay? So one of the great things about wearing a mask is that when you cry, all the tears get sopped up. So now we'll go to the old method of Kleenex, or tissue, sorry. So first of all, I have something to read from Bree Smith, who sent the lovely flowers, the colorful flowers you see on the floor of the chancel. Okay, so these are Bree's words. There are so many things I could say about Lesley. Lesley had the kind of heart that you couldn't help but be in awe of. She welcomed everyone into her life with a smile. She was the sweetest person I ever had the privilege of knowing. Lesley took care of me like a mother would when I didn't have very many people in my corner. She never gave up on me, no matter how many times I messed up. And let's be honest, I messed up a lot as a young adult. Bree, I'll never forgive you for making me read this. She showed me how to be a better person each and every day. I can never thank her enough for that. Memories have been flooding back recently of her and I practicing handbells with Pam. That's me. Looking back, I can see how frustrating it would be to go over the same part of music about 80 times in 4 hours, but they both helped me without being frustrated. I remember being so upset about not getting a part of my music, I went into a meltdown, and she just sat with me for an hour or so while I calmed down. Then we practiced and practiced until I got it right. I was so proud of myself when the handbell concert came and I nailed that part. I looked over at Lesley after, and just the simple thumbs up that she gave me almost made me cry. She was so proud of me. She shaped me into the caring and strong woman I am today. I am so thankful to her each and every day. And there's a song I was listening to the other day called Sanctuary by Wesley Arms, and a part of it reminded me of Lesley. I see your hurt, I see your pain. All of our dirt is washed in the rain. I've walked that road, I felt that shame. No place is home, but times they are a-changin'. This is our sanctuary. We can find shelter and peace. This is our sanctuary. You are safe with me. This is our sanctuary. We can find shelter and peace. She was a safe space for everyone who knew her. The world is a better place having had her in it. Lesley had this way of making you feel safe enough to let down all your walls and be your true and complete self with her. She was an amazing human being. I love you, Lesley. May your soul be at peace. So I'm Lesley's friend and housemate for the last I don't know how long. I want to share some thoughts of my friend and little sister, Lesley. Some of you might not know that Lesley spent 5 years of her life in a body cast as a child. She had something called Perthes disease, which meant that one of her hips was not properly formed. She had numerous surgeries to try to rebuild the joint, I think 8 or so before it was partially fixed. But her memory of that time is not one of pain and suffering. No, not for Lesley. Instead, it was the races she had with other kids in the hospital, both in wheelchairs and on crutches. And when she had a bar between her feet to hold her hips in place, she remembered passing her crutches to someone else and then racing them down the street. Nothing was going to hold her back. Prior to her hip replacement, when she was around 40, I knew that she was in pain, but I don't think I ever heard her complain about it. Not once can I remember. I know that her mom, June, rarely let Lesley get away with bad behavior when she was a child, even if she was hurting, and those lessons stuck with her for her whole life. So, if I were to describe Lesley in 3 words, originally I was going to say stubborn, and stubborn. But I changed that so that it would be determined, tenacious, and dogged. Those are her best and most annoying traits. I'd have to ask for more than 3, though, so that I could add intensely private, patient, and unfailingly kind. This is what made her special to be around. She always cared more about you than she did for herself. She oozed kindness and patience. She once waited 45 minutes in the pouring rain while I suffered through an anxiety attack that prevented me from getting into her car after work one day. In the pouring rain, she just waited, telling me not to worry. There was no rush. She had nothing to do at home and could wait all night if that's what it took. Honestly, I would have killed me if I was in her spot. She was just so darn sweet and kind and genuine. I really admired how she was able to set herself aside and offer others her kindness, and I failed horribly in emulating her, although I do continue to try. Lesley did not have her own children, but her happy place from being with kids of all ages. She delighted in her niece and nephew, Nicole and Tyler, and her hundreds of cousins, as well as my son Tyler, starting from when he was about 6 years old, and now his 2 children, Marcus and Miles. She lit up with joy when she was able to be around them, and I'm so sorry that they won't have her influence as they grow up. She worked for the Boys and Girls Club, and I think someone from that time may be here today or online. As the children, youth, and family minister, she enjoyed playing games, reading books, and coming up with crazy ways to teach them about Jesus and God in their lives. I can't think of anyone better to have played that role here at Golden Years. I also think she was a closet romantic. One of Lesley's secret and guilty pleasures, I'm telling on you, were those cheesy Hallmark movies. You know, the Christmas and the Valentine's Day and Easter and spring and Christmas in July, all of them. Anytime I was away from the house without her, like, for instance, like at bell practice, I'd come home and she'd be watching one of those silly movies. And then usually what would happen is I would give like a really exaggerated eye roll. In going through Lesley's stuff, I found a couple of pages for her wishes upon her death. There were really only 2. 1, the upbeat and happy hymns you'll hear today, especially Draw the Circle Wide, which was her absolutely favorite. And 2, that there be a barbecue afterwards. Well, no. It's too cold, Lesley, so I hope that we've done a great service to her by asking people to wear bright clothes and act as if it's her birthday party. She'd be turning 60 on the 30th. I think Lesley would want to remember her as the energetic, fun-loving, kind, and generous person she was. It's my hope that you are able to share your own stories of Lesley and keep them in your hearts long after we leave here. Now, the picture of the hawk at the front, it's got a little history behind it. So when we called them the trailer trash, the group of people that went camping together, during that time, June, Lesley's mom, always said that any day you saw a hawk was going to be a good day. And I can't remember, this is not my story, this was told to me, but either on the day that June died or close to it, friends of ours reported seeing a hawk sitting in their backyard just sitting there on a pole. And they commented on it that, oh, look, there's a hawk in our backyard. But when they found out that June had died, they really felt that the hawk was actually June saying goodbye to them. And so my mother, whose picture this was, gave it to Lesley in remembrance of her beloved mom. Right at the end of November, I was in my kitchen looking out at the backyard, and suddenly a hawk arose from the grasses with a mouse. I'm saying mouse. It was a mouse in its claws. It sat on my fence for a good 10 minutes, and I called Signe in to come and look, and we just stood there and just looked at it, and it was just sitting on the fence. And after it flew off, I knew that Lesley would be leaving us. It was a great relief for her, but a huge sadness for the rest of us. a better friend. You could not want. I really hope I did right by you. Happy almost 60th, Lesley. I'll miss you forever.
Thank you, Pam. I believe Carol Finch has a few words.
In February 2006, quite a large group of us, many still in this congregation, traveled to Israel together. And one of the tasks that Lesley wanted to do was spread ashes from her mother. Yes, this one is not going to make you cry, it's going to make you laugh. So anyways, the day they chose, it was raining. And it was February, remember. So Lesley had the ashes there, and I believe Pam was with her in the mud hole, and they went out and spread the ashes. Well, when they came back to the bus, they both had mud halfway up their legs, and the bus driver was horrified. So the next stop we made, the bus driver left. We kind of wondered where he went to. And when he came back, he said, I had to get a garden hose and hose out the bus. And that's what he did. That was one of my memories of Lesley.
Thank you, Carol. And Sue.
Good morning. I remember when the Fairley and Kennedy families joined what was then St. Andrew's United Church around 1995. They had crossed the river all the way from Coquitlam and Como Lake United Church. At first, I had trouble remembering who was who. Maybe you've experienced this. You're introduced to two people at the same time, but the next time you meet them, you can't remember which was June and which was Norma. Were they sisters? And then there were those girls, Lesley and Pam. Which dad was Pam's? And which mom was Lesley's? Were the girls cousins? But no, the two families were just very close friends, and eventually I figured it out. Images of Lesley have been flitting through my mind from the last several years, like a slideshow that's in no particular order. From our trip to Israel, led by Reverend Del McCrindle, I can see Lesley on the bus next to Pam, and later holding on for dear life as we rocked and rolled in a boat on the Sea of Galilee. As a children's and family minister, she always had to demonstrate games at our picnics, but those three-person skis were quite a challenge for her. I can see images of Lesley during learning time here in the sanctuary with a group of children and adults at her feet. She would read a story or use tangible items to illustrate a scripture. Lesley started on the path towards diaconal ministry, and a group of us knit her a prayer shawl to support her on that journey. I think it's here today. Of course, we all remember her sitting at her desk in the church office where she juggled all the tasks of the office administrator. It was an exciting moment for Lesley when she parked her new electric car in the staff parking spot at the church. And summers would find her surrounded with children as Golden Ears hosted Camp Spirit. Lesley loved our retreats to the Abbey, and once she brought a quilt that she was working on. And when Lesley led worship services, they were well planned and her reflections were thoughtful. You get the picture, a person of faith, totally committed to her role as children and family minister, a reliable church secretary, and an active member of this church community. One of the things Lesley and I had in common was quilting, And when Pam found an unopened quilt kit that Lesley planned to use to make a quilt for a couple of little boys who were very special to her, Pam asked me if I would complete it. So over the past weeks, I did just that. I could feel Lesley's presence as I worked on Pond Party, knowing that she chose this colorful design for Marcus and Miles. Lesley was always cheerful, and she took time to listen to how you were doing. She worked hard at all the tasks she undertook. Lesley was creative, and she loved children. Everyone who knew her should feel blessed for the privilege of having been her friend. And the label reads, "Love from Auntie Lesley."
Thank you, Sue. And finally, I'd like to ask Mary Hampton to come forward. Pam found a few poems pinned to Lesley's notice board. One of them was the poem that's inside the bulletin, The Weaver, and another one was a poem that Mary wrote, and I believe it was at one of those retreats in the Abbey.
Lesley was a very good friend to me as well. We worked together here at the church for many years, and shortly after she joined the church, she found the handbell choir. And we were known as St. Andrew's Ringers at the time, or STAR for short. And she liked the word STAR because it led us to do things for other people. So this poem was written by me at the Abbey in 2019. Every time the ladies group here goes to the Abbey for our weekend retreat, there's a theme that we work on for the weekend. In 2019, the theme was the cup of life. So for some reason, when I go to the Abbey, I get inspired to write poetry. And so this is one of those poems. This cup of life is old and chipped, a little soiled, but well equipped to be filled with joy and pain, emptied out and filled again. Its warmth calms my weary soul, its contents give me rest a while, and time to think of daily tasks, strength to face another day, time for work and time for play, filled each day with prayer and blessings to see me through the day, filled to the brim with friendships too. My cup is old and chipped and faded, but I carry on, not dissuaded. Also, because Lesley was a member of a handbell choir for years, there's a tradition in the handbell community to honor a ringer that has passed by doing a bell toll. I asked Pam if she would like me to do one, and she said she would. So I'm going to ring 3 times for Lesley, 2 long ones and a short one to show that we lost her too soon. So this will be the bell toll.
Thank you, Mary. What a beautiful, beautiful way of honoring Lesley. We have a short slideshow now, and the images may flash by too quickly on the screen, but once you're in the hall for the reception, they will be on a loop on the TV for a much longer time. So if there's an image that you go, oh, I want to see that. And For the music, for the piece, Grant had suggested My Way. And we really debated about this because, is this really what Lesley would have wanted? And then we remembered how stubborn she was. I mean, how dogged and persistent she was, and how she did like to do things her way. So, Anne, I'd like you to run the slideshow, and Sam and Diane are going to offer My Way.
And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friend, I'll say it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do and saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway, and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when I bit off more than I could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up and spit it out. I faced it all, and I stood tall and did it my way. I've loved, I've laughed and cried, I've had my fill, my share of losing, and now as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way. Oh no, not me. I did it my way. For what's a woman? What has she got, if not herself?
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Diane. A reading from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 9, verses 33 to 37. I'm reading from the Common English Bible. They entered Capernaum, and when they had come into a house, Jesus asked them, "What were you arguing about on the journey?" They didn't respond, since the way they had been debating with each other, they were asking who was the greatest. So Jesus sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last, must be least of all, and the servant of all." And then Jesus reached for a little child, placed him among the 12, and embraced him. Then he said, "Whoever welcomes one of these children in my name welcomes me. And whoever welcomes me isn't actually welcoming me, but rather the one who sent me." And then from the next chapter in Mark, people were bringing children to Jesus so that he would bless them. But the disciples scolded them. When Jesus saw this, he grew angry and said to them, "Allow the children to come to me. Don't forbid them, because God's kingdom belongs to people like these children. I assure you that whoever doesn't welcome God's kingdom like a child will never enter it." And then he hugged the children and blessed them. I was looking for a file on my computer as I was preparing for the service, and I came across Lesley's application letter for the position of Children and Family Minister. In it, she succinctly shared her vision for the ministry: to help children and youth recognize and deepen their relationship with God, and to work with the congregation to nurture the spiritual and faith development of young people in order to help them become active and passionate disciples of Christ, just as she was an active and passionate disciple of Jesus Christ. From the very beginning, Lesley's life was about making space for others and welcoming them into a community of faith. She grew up in the United Church, first of all 6th Avenue, then Queens Avenue, then Como Lake, and here for the past 30 years at St. Andrews, and then when we became Golden Ears United. Her faith was nurtured along the way by her parents, by Sunday school teachers, by church elders and youth leaders, by her friends in Yaya, Youth and Young Adult Ministries across BC Conference, in Westminster Presbytery, and later through her own leadership in Youth and Young Adult Ministry. Each of these communities deepened her connection with God and shaped her commitment to sharing that faith with others. But Lesley's knowledge of God and Jesus wasn't just about programs or curriculum or study. It was relational. She knew God's love in her life because she had experienced it. And like the song says, that's how it is with God's love. Once you've experienced it, you spread God's love to everyone you want to pass it on. Lesley understood that faith calls us to embrace others, to create a sense of belonging, and to welcome all in grace and love of God. Lesley's faith wasn't just about sustaining her own spirituality. It was an outpouring. It was about sharing God's love and light with others. Over the years, she nurtured and mentored dozens and dozens of children and youth in this congregation and in Westminster Presbytery and in the wider church through Yaya, helping them to discover their own worth as children of God. Her leadership extended into bringing Camp Spirit to Golden Ears, a week where children experience God's love in community and in nature. And during a time when our church was supporting Ukrainian newcomers, we were hosting ESL classes for the Ukrainian folks, and many of them had young kids. And Lesley wanted to figure out a way for those kids to be able to experience Camp Spirit as well. So she applied for a grant and got translators so that those children who were traumatized from their time in Ukraine could fully participate in Camp Spirit and feel included. But Lesley's ministry with children was only one part of her impact here. Her role of office administrator revealed another side of her care. She became an anchor for many in the congregation, serving as an unofficial pastoral care provider. When people needed to get something off their chest, they would come and tell Lesley because they knew that she would listen and receive whatever it was and hold it in the utter confidence. Whether it was listening to people's troubles, offering encouragement, praying for them, or simply greeting people with a warm smile and genuine interest. Lesley created a space where everyone felt valued. Through her work, her prayers, and her kindness, she reflected God's love in deeply personal ways. Her faith and her love for others shone not only in her ministry, but also how she faced her own struggles. Pam mentioned her early years with all of the surgeries on her hip, through the grinding arthritis pain before her hip replacement, and finally through her recent illness. Lesley bore it all with patience and grace. Her faith, rooted in the words, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," gave her the strength to endure. Many were shocked by her passing because she rarely spoke of her illness. She didn't want to focus on her troubles. Instead, she devoted her energy to caring for others. Even during her final months when she was in and out of hospital, Lesley's care for others never wavered. I remember one time in visiting her in the emergency room where she had been for an awfully long time because they couldn't get a bed for her. She held tightly onto her little olive wood cross and said, "Will you remember to thank Jackie for this? Because this has given me strength." At one point, I had given Jackie a little wooden holding cross when she needed it, and Jackie loved it so much that she went out and she bought hundreds of them, and has become a ministry of hers to share these little holding crosses with people who need them. Lesley's ability to extend love and compassion, even in moments of personal pain, was testament to the depth of her faith and her unfailing commitment to create spaces of care and belonging. The Gospels remind us how deeply Jesus valued children. "Let the children come to me. Do not stop them." Lesley lived these words every day. She didn't just love the children, she honored them. She celebrated their joy, she nurtured their spirits, and reflected their beauty back to them, always seeing the divine spark in them. One of the things that she did at Camp Spirit when it was here would be to take pictures of the children as they were engaged in their activities or play. I don't know how she did it. She captured joy and beauty and the spirit in each one of those pictures. I would love to have shown them, but because we didn't have permission to do that, I didn't share that. But anyone in Camp Spirit will know that Lesley's photos were really special. Just as God was with Lesley throughout her life, she now rests in God's eternal presence. The same love that walked with her in life has now welcomed her home. As we honor Lesley's life, we are reminded of her legacy of love, of inclusion, and of faith. She lived her life drawing the circle a little wider to include others, creating space for them to grow, to feel loved, to know that they belonged. And so we're going to sing now the hymn, Draw the Circle Wide, her absolute favorite. May it remind us of the boundless love of God that Lesley so faithfully embodied. Let's continue to expand our lives, our communities, expanding love, expanding and trusting that we are all held in the eternal embrace of God's love. Let's sing.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song, no one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. God, the still point of the circle, round whom all creation turns, nothing lost but held forever in God's gracious heart. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song, no one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Let our hearts touch far horizons, so encompass great and small. Let our loving know no borders, faithful to God's call. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song, no one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Let the dreams we dream be larger than we've ever dreamed before. Let the dream of Christ be in us, open every door. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song, no one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Have a seat. Whoever said United Church was the frozen chosen? Let's pray. Gracious and loving God, we come to you for the comfort that only you can give. We thank you for the blessings of life, for watching over us in death, and for all the ways we come to know your love. We give thanks for the light revealed to us in Jesus Christ, who has shown us that even death cannot constrain your loving spirit, that love has no limit and no end. Especially today, we thank you for Lesley, faithful daughter, beloved sister, cherished aunt, friend, teacher, mentor, and follower of Jesus. We praise you for the gifts of her life, for her deep and abiding faith in you, for her kindness, loyalty, and patience, for her generosity of spirit, her warmth and welcome, her determination to meet the challenges of life with grace. We remember the safe, warm, and welcoming space that she created for children and adults alike, and the love that she poured into every connection that she made. May the shelter of your love surround all who grieve today. May your presence, deep and still, steady their hearts and give them strength to move through their grief. We pray especially for Grant and Natalie, Tyler and Nicole, for Pam and Signe, for Darlene, and for the children and families of this faith community and all who loved her. Wrap them in your peace that passes understanding, in the knowledge that Lesley is now held securely in your arms, that her struggles have ended, her spirit is free. In her life, Lesley showed us that love is not bound by words alone, but is felt in the touch of a hand, in the warmth of a smile, the quiet strength of a heart dedicated to serving others. Even now, her light lingers, illuminating our way forward, guiding us to live with the same compassion, courage, and care. Holy God, we thank you that death is not an ending, but a doorway, a journey into the boundless horizon of your love. May we honor Lesley's life by living with hearts wide open, trusting in your promises and rejoicing in the knowledge that she rests in you, whole, beloved, and at peace. All of this we ask in the name of Jesus Christ, who taught us to pray together, turning to God as we would turn to our own mother, saying, Our Father, Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. We're going to sing one more time, but before we do, before I forget, one of the things that Lesley loved, one of the services she loved most in the year, was the blessing of the backpacks when kids were getting ready to go back to school in September, and teachers and people who worked in education. And so we have backpack blessing tags for you. They are in the church hall. You'll see them on the table where the cake is, and right under the television where the slideshow is looping. So we hope you would like to take a backpack tag to remember Lesley. We're going to sing One More Step Along the World.
One more step along the world I go. One more step along the world I go. From the old things to the new. Keep me traveling along with you. And it's from the old I travel to the new. Keep me traveling along with you. Round the corner of the world I turn. More and more about the world I learn. All the new things that I see, you'll be looking at along with me. And it's from the old I travel to the new. Keep me traveling along. me traveling along with you.
Friends, we would love you to join us for the, I'm not going to call it reception, that sounds too formal. Pam wants it to be a party. So this is Lesley's 60th birthday party that we're having with her present, not in her absence, with her presence. And there's birthday cake, there's all kinds of goodies. When you go out, you can either go out down this corridor here by the piano or out the door that you came in and down into the back entrance of the hall. We hope that people will do both because it can get really congested. As you get into the hall, keep moving because there are people behind you. Keep moving. All right. So I said there's cake. Grant yesterday told me about him eating all of the icing off Lesley's birthday cake. So don't do it, Grant. All right. So earlier today, we interred Lesley's ashes in our memorial peace garden just out the window there. Her family gathered and we placed her ashes along with those of June and Bob and other friends and extended family members. So we're not going to commend her to God because we've already done that. But we are going to do a final blessing on each other. As we leave this place, knowing that we are not alone, but that we stand always in the presence of love, the love that brings life out of death, hope out of despair, and a blessing. Life is short, and we do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who go the way with us. So be swift to love, make haste to be kind, and the blessing of God who made us, who loves us, and who travels along with us be with you now and forever. Amen.
As you go forth, know you're not alone, and know that you are perfect in the eyes of God. As you go forth, know that you are blessed wanting your